Sir, I need you to step away from that door right now, and I need you to call whoever you need to call because I'm calling the police. Dave Mitchell stood at the bottom of the basement stairs, his phone already in his hand, pointing at the heavy steel door set into the concrete wall. The elderly man standing in front of it, thin and gray-haired, didn't move. "That's not necessary," Arthur Lang said quietly. "Just finish the breaker panel upstairs and leave this alone." Dave laughed, sharp and nervous. "Leave it alone? Buddy, I just saw enough military hardware through that crack to arm a militia. I'm not leaving anything alone. I'm calling 911. Arthur's jaw tightened. "You don't understand what you're looking at." Dave was already dialing. "I understand illegal weapons cache when I see one. I understand some old guy playing soldier in his basement. And I understand I'm about 2 seconds from being an accessory if I don't report this. If you believe we should honor the quiet service of those who protect us from the shadows, type respect in the comments right now." Arthur Lang was 78 years old and had lived in the same house in McLean, Virginia, for 42 years. To his neighbors, he was a retired government worker who kept to himself, maintained his lawn meticulously, and occasionally helped with neighborhood watch. He drove a 15-year-old Honda Civic, bought his groceries at the same store every Tuesday, and lived alone since his wife had passed 6 years ago. What his neighbors didn't know, what almost nobody knew, was that Arthur's basement contained one of 7 backup command and control centers for the Pentagon's emergency communications system. Built in 1983 during the height of Cold War tensions, the facility had cost $8 million to construct in secret, embedded beneath an ordinary suburban home. Arthur had been a communications specialist for the Defense Intelligence Agency for 33 years. When he had retired in 2015, the bunker hadn't. It was still active, still maintained, still capable of serving as a critical node in the military's continuity of operations plan. The breaker box had finally given out that morning, the original 1983 installation, 42 years old, overloaded by modern electronics and the bunker's power requirements. Arthur had called a local electrician, specifically requesting someone without security clearance because he'd planned to keep them upstairs, away from the basement entirely. He'd intended to shut down the bunker temporarily, replace the breaker box, bring everything back online before anyone knew it existed. But Dave Mitchell had been curious. When Arthur had stepped outside to move his car, Dave had gone exploring, found the basement door Arthur had forgotten to lock, descended the stairs and seen the steel door with its biometric lock and the narrow gap where the seal had worn thin. Through that gap, Dave had glimpsed what looked like server racks, radio, equipment, and a weapons locker, standard security equipment for a classified facility, but to an uninformed civilian, it looked like something else entirely. Dave Mitchell was 34 years old and had been running his electrical contracting business for 6 years. He was good at his work, reliable, thorough, and deeply convinced that he had good instincts about people. When he'd arrived at the Lang residence that morning, something had felt off. The old man had been nervous, hovering, insisting Dave only work on the upstairs panel. That kind of behavior set off alarm bells. Dave had seen enough true crime documentaries to know that ordinary-looking people did extraordinary bad things. The basement discovery confirmed his suspicions. Military equipment in a civilian home, weapons, some kind of command center. This was either a crazy prepper or something worse. Dave's hands shook as he waited for 911 to answer. "Yes, I need to report a suspected illegal weapons cache. I'm at 2847 Oakmont Drive in McLean. The homeowner has what looks like a military bunker in his basement." The 911 operator's voice was calm, professional. "Sir, can you describe what you saw?" Dave glanced at Arthur, who stood motionless in front of the steel door. Military-grade communications equipment, weapons locker, reinforced doors, biometric locks. This isn't normal home security. This is serious hardware. The operator paused. "Sir, what is your current location in the home?" Dave frowned at the odd question. I'm in the basement. The homeowner is here with me. He's not being threatening or anything, he just told me to leave it alone. Another pause, longer this time. Sir, I need you to go upstairs and wait outside. Police are being dispatched. Dave felt vindicated. See? Even they know something's wrong here. Arthur closed his eyes briefly. You have no idea what you've just done. 20 minutes later, 2 Fairfax County police cruisers pulled up, lights flashing. Dave met them at the front door, relieved. Officers, thank God you're here. The homeowner has some kind of bunker in the basement, military equipment, weapons. The first officer, Sergeant Linda Hayes, held up a hand. Sir, we need you to stay outside while we assess the situation. She and her partner, Officer Martinez, entered the house. Dave watched through the window as they talked to Arthur in the living room. The conversation was brief. Arthur showed them something, looked like an ID card. Sergeant Hayes's entire demeanor changed. She stepped away, spoke urgently into her radio. Within 5 minutes, 3 more vehicles arrived, 2 black SUVs with government plates and an unmarked sedan. 6 people emerged. 5 in suits, 1 in military dress uniform with enough stars on his shoulders to make Dave's stomach drop. The military officer was Major General Robert Chen, Vice Director of the Defense Information Systems Agency. He entered Arthur's home with the kind of authority that made the police officers step back automatically. One of the suited men, gray-haired and carrying a metal briefcase, went straight to Dave. Mr. Mitchell, I'm Agent Stevens, National Security Agency. I need you to come with me, please. Dave's vindication evaporated into confusion. Wait, what? I'm the one who called this in. That old man has illegal. Agent Stevens cut him off. Mr. Mitchell, nothing in this residence is illegal. Everything in this residence is classified at levels you don't have clearance to know exist. You have just committed a serious breach of operational security, and we need to contain it. Now. Dave's legs went weak. Breach? I was trying to help. I thought he was... Stevens gestured to one of the SUVs. We'll discuss it outside. Let's go. Inside, General Chen stood in Arthur's living room, hands clasped behind his back. Mr. Lang, we have a situation. Arthur nodded tiredly. Contractor saw the bunker, called 911. The operator must have flagged the address. Chen confirmed. Your address has been on a priority alert list since 1983. Any emergency call triggers immediate notification to DISA, NSA, and the Joint Chiefs. We were mobilized within 4 minutes. He paused. This is exactly the kind of exposure scenario we've planned for, but it's still a nightmare. How much did he see? Arthur shook his head. Just through the door gap. Equipment, weapons locker. He thinks I'm a criminal. One of the suited women who'd been introduced as Dr. Sarah Vance from the NSA's Special Access Programs Office stepped forward. We need to do a full security review. This facility has been operational for 42 years without compromise. We can't let a curious electrician end that record. Outside, Dave sat in the back of an SUV, Agent Stevens across from him with a folder full of documents. Mr. Mitchell, what I'm about to tell you is classified. You will sign non-disclosure agreements. You will never speak of this to anyone. If you violate these agreements, you will face federal prosecution that will result in decades of imprisonment. Do you understand? Dave nodded mutely. Stevens opened the folder. The residence at 2847 Oakmont Drive is not a private home. Well, it is. But it's also a classified government facility. It has been since 1983. Arthur Lang is not some crazy prepper. He's a retired Defense Intelligence Agency senior communications officer who maintained one of 7 backup command centers for Pentagon operations continuity. Dave's mouth fell open. Command center in a regular house. Stevens nodded. Hidden in plain sight. During the Cold War, the Pentagon needed backup communications hubs that wouldn't be obvious targets. They built 7 of them in ordinary residential neighborhoods, disguised as normal homes. Arthur Lang's basement contains secure communications equipment capable of coordinating military operations if the Pentagon is compromised. It's still operational, still maintained, still part of our national defense infrastructure. Dave felt sick. I called 911. I told them he had illegal weapons. Stephen's expression was grim. You told a 911 operator, who told dispatch, who told responding officers, who now have to sign the same NDAs you're about to sign. You've potentially compromised a facility that has remained covert for 4 decades. You've exposed operational security protocols. You've created a paper trail that has to be scrubbed. Do you understand the magnitude of what you've done? Dave's voice cracked. I was trying to do the right thing. It looked suspicious. Stevens leaned back. The right thing would have been to finish your job and leave. The right thing would have been to respect your client's privacy. The right thing would have been to trust that an elderly man living quietly in McLean, Virginia for 42 years probably isn't a domestic terrorist. He pulled out the first document. This is non-disclosure agreement number 1. You have 46 more to sign. Inside, General Chen was conducting his own assessment. Mr. Lang, your service record is exemplary. 33 years with DIA, perfect operational security, not a single breach. You maintained this facility through administrations, conflicts, technological transitions. You've been the quiet guardian of one of our most critical backup systems. Arthur sat heavily on his couch. I should have locked the door. Chen shook his head. The door seal has worn. That's on us, not you. We should have replaced it years ago. The contractor saw through a gap that shouldn't exist. Dr. Vance added, We're going to have to conduct a full security review of all 7 facilities. If one seal has degraded, others might have too. This incident, while unfortunate, may have prevented a more serious compromise. She looked at Arthur with obvious respect. Sir, most people would have panicked, would have said something to confirm suspicions. You stayed calm, protected the facility, allowed our protocols to work. That's exceptional operational discipline. Sergeant Hayes appeared at the door. General, the contractor is asking about pressing charges. He seems to think he's been wrongfully detained. Chen's expression hardened. Nobody's been detained. He's being briefed on the consequences of his actions and signing the necessary legal documents. He turned to Arthur. Mr. Lang, do you want to press charges for trespassing? Arthur shook his head. He didn't know. He thought he was helping. Chen studied him. You're more generous than he deserves. He violated your privacy, called you a criminal, potentially compromised national security. Most people would want consequences. Arthur's voice was quiet but firm. He made a mistake. We all make mistakes. The difference is most mistakes don't trigger a Joint Chiefs response. He paused. I spent 33 years in the shadows, protecting systems nobody knows exist. I don't need vindication. I need him to understand, to learn, and to never speak of this again. 2 hours later, Dave Mitchell emerged from the SUV with a stack of signed documents and a fundamentally altered worldview. Agent Stevens walked him back to Arthur's front door. Mr. Lang has agreed not to press charges. You're free to complete your electrical work under supervision, or we can hire another contractor and you can leave. Your choice. Dave looked at Arthur, who stood in the doorway. I don't know what to say. Arthur stepped aside. Say you'll finish the breaker box. It still needs replacing. Dave entered cautiously. Mr. Lang, I accused you of being a criminal. I called the police on you. I probably cost the government millions of dollars in security reviews. Arthur led him to the basement stairs. You thought you were protecting people. Your instincts were good, even if your judgment was wrong. Now you know better. Dave descended the stairs, acutely aware of the 2 NSA agents following him. The steel door to the bunker was now sealed properly, a maintenance team having replaced the worn gasket. Can I ask, what's in there? Arthur smiled slightly. Nothing you have clearance to know about. Just equipment that helps keep the country safe. Dave worked on the breaker box for the next 3 hours, each wire and connection checked and rechecked by the NSA technicians. When he finally finished, Arthur walked him to his truck. "Mr. Mitchell, I've lived in this house for 42 years. I've watched neighbors raise families, seen kids grow up and move away, attended block parties and holiday gatherings. I've always just been the quiet old man who keeps to himself. That's exactly what I needed to be. The best way to hide something important is to be completely unimportant." Dave loaded his tools. "How many people know about what you do?" Arthur shrugged. "My wife knew. She passed 6 years ago. The military knows. The intelligence community knows. Beyond that, nobody. That's how it has to be." Dave hesitated. "Those NDAs I signed? I can't even tell my wife what happened here today." Arthur nodded. "You tell her you did electrical work for a retired government employee. That's all. No bunker, no weapons, no military personnel. Just a breaker box replacement." Dave met his eyes. "I'm sorry. For all of it. For assuming, for judging, for causing this mess." Arthur extended his hand. Dave shook it. "You didn't know. Now you do. Use that knowledge to think twice before assuming the worst about people." As Dave drove away, he watched Arthur in his rear-view mirror, a thin, gray-haired old man returning to his ordinary-looking house that contained extraordinary secrets. Dave would never tell anyone what happened that day, not because of the NDAs, though those were serious enough, but because he'd learned something more important than legal consequences. He'd learned that some of the most critical work in the world is done by people nobody notices, in places nobody suspects, by individuals who seek no recognition and receive no glory. The truth is, we're surrounded by hidden heroes, people who've dedicated their lives to protecting us from threats we never see, working in positions we never hear about, maintaining systems we never think about. They're not flashy. They don't seek attention. They live in ordinary houses and drive ordinary cars and shop at ordinary stores. And when we see something that seems unusual, something that doesn't fit our narrow understanding of normal, our first instinct is often suspicion instead of respect. Arthur Lang spent 33 years with the Defense Intelligence Agency and another 10 maintaining a classified facility in his basement. For 42 years, his home was a critical piece of national defense infrastructure. For 42 years, he lived with the weight of secrets that could never be shared, doing work that could never be acknowledged, serving a mission that would never make headlines. That's real service. That's quiet sacrifice. That's the kind of dedication that keeps nations safe and free. Subscribe to my channel if you believe in honoring the service members who work in shadows and silence. If you believe that before we judge someone as suspicious or dangerous, we should remember that we don't know everyone's story. If you believe that some of the most important work in the world is done by people who will never receive public recognition, never get medals in ceremonies, never see their names in papers. Share this story if it made you think twice about assumptions and judgments. Comment. Honor. If you believe every person who serves this nation, whether in uniform or in secret, whether in battle or in basement command centers, deserves our respect and gratitude. The Arthur Langs of the world don't ask for recognition, but they've earned it anyway, 1,000 times over. Remember that the next time you see something you don't understand, sometimes the strangest thing is actually the most important thing, and sometimes the quietest person is the biggest hero.